Hello, everybody. This is Sweta Ragni streaming live from Canada. Today's all about how do you track those promotions? Do you want to move on quickly? And are you the one who are thinking, why them? Why not me? We got strategies for you. And you're talking to somebody who's got promoted multiple times, 9 times within 12 years. And I got a great guest for you today who's been promoted 7 times within 10 years. And how do we promote our direct reports? We were a hiring manager in the top companies in Canada. So we're going to share those strategies today with you. How do we make up our time in the corporate world by promoting ourselves, also our direct reports as well? So sometimes it's not only about your degrees and certifications, it's probably about the personal branding and relationship building. And there's so much when it comes to promoting yourself. All right. So join me. There's a different coach in Canada. I love her contents and everything. So I'm gonna just guess it. Who is it? Can you give me in comments? Tell me where you're watching me from. Let the comment go on and on. Tell me who's the guest. I literally put this out here a week before. So tell me who it is and ask us questions now. Quickly, some housekeeping today. This is being streamed live on our YouTube channel as well. I'm going to give you the YouTube channel too, so that way you can see later on for replay as well. Let me see. Right there, bottom, go ahead and subscribe. Also, you can catch this on a replay. And guess what? Today is your lucky day. I am streaming this live on LinkedIn audio events as well. There are how many people watching right now? Let me see here. There are so many people watching right now. 86 people listening, actually, just listening to this right now. I'm going to go with the share screening button later on and share who all are listening. And you get to ask questions after the live show ends around like 30 minutes or so. We're going to open the floor for 10 minutes, and me and Tiffany are going to take questions related with your promotion strategy, career strategy. Bring it on. So I'm going to bring my guest, Tiffany Uman. Here you go, career strategy coach. Welcome to my show. Tell us about yourself.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Sweta. This is going to be a jam-packed session. I have a good feeling. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Uman. I'm a career strategy coach based in Canada, but I love empowering ambitious professionals to fast-track your career success, avoid blind spots that really cripple your progression if you're not careful, and ultimately put the right action into place to get you to where you want to go faster and without compromising your well-being. That's a really important part. Prior to this, I also had my own corporate career track in the Fortune 500 space for over 13 years. I accelerated my own career growth with 7 promotions in under 10 years. And now I love talking about best practices and strategies so you can take full control of your career.
Awesome. Super excited. This is something that I don't usually do it often. My clients still are normally newcomers, immigrants in Canada, having hard time struggling to bounce back. Also, the people who are laid off, who are having issues to bounce back as well. And people who are really miserable, and they want to go where they're celebrated, right? Who are your clients normally, targeted clients?
I would say primarily corporate professionals, anywhere from the young professional, mid to slightly senior stage. A lot within those first 2 mid years where they're still navigating a lot of that. Maybe it's their first role, switching to a new job, wanting to set themselves up for success, or professionals who are a little bit further along but aren't where they want to be and are struggling and are annoyed and frustrated of like, why isn't this working? I'm working so hard and I'm just not getting the progression or the raises that I'd like to see for myself. So that's a lot of what I'm seeing. And more, I think, just really helping my clients and professionals find that next step. Maybe they're in between jobs looking for what that next step should look like for them in something that's going to be a lot more fulfilling.
Awesome. So tell us your strategy. How did you manage to get those 7 promotions within 10 years? Walk us all.
Yeah. So there was a lot of strategy and intention behind it, but it ultimately started, Sweta, from like the what not to do anymore. I think one of the things I talk about a lot and what inspired me in becoming a career strategy coach is that there's a lot that school never really teaches us to be set up for success. and to lead to those promotions, right? We're kind of taught that our work speaks for itself in a big way from a schooling standpoint. So if we come into the workplace with that mindset, we're not necessarily at fault for thinking that, but it doesn't necessarily cut it. It's not just about the work. And that was a really harsh wake-up call I had to experience to know, I think there's other things I should be doing that's going to help me get ahead faster. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Sweta, around personal branding. That is huge. The things I really love layering into that from a strategy standpoint is all things self-advocacy, really knowing yourself inside and out so that you can absolutely leverage that to fast track your growth with the right stakeholders, with the right decision makers, and ultimately establish the most beneficial types of relationships that will also advocate for you. Of course, there's a layer of leadership there as well. And I'm a big believer that you don't have to be a director, a VP, a CEO to be a leader. This can be at any stage of your career that will absolutely change the game in your career track. Outside of that, definitely communication is huge, not just in how you put yourself forward, how you communicate, how you speak about your work, but ultimately how you're advocating for yourself. No one is going to necessarily do that for you. And if you're counting on your work to do that, and you're not really showcasing this or highlighting it or demonstrating the value that you're bringing, it can lead to a lot of those blind spots of keeping you stuck in a role longer than need be. I'd say maybe the last key theme, and we'll definitely dive into more of this, is actually work-life balance. And that's something that always kind of pleasantly surprises my clients, because I never want you to be set up for success that's compromising your personal life or well-being in the process. It's just not sustainable. And so when you learn the right strategies around time management, planning, goal setting, deadline management, stress management, you're able to put your energy where it really counts and makes the biggest difference in closing the gap dramatically to your next steps, to those promotions.
That's amazing. So for those of you who are listening to us in audio events, check yourself out. I've just shared the screen. There are 76 people right now listening. It will come off and on. I'd like you to stay there. If you have any questions, we're going to come back and take up your questions by bringing you up on the stage, and that would be broadcasted live for you as well on YouTube channel. Go ahead and check yourself out there. This is being streamed on LinkedIn Live as well. So that's a great point. So I'm going to remove the share screen here, so that way we can focus on Tiffany, and then we can focus on the promotion strategies. So I think, you know what, you got it. I think, so for me, when I were to talk about, I didn't even think that I was actually doing this until I realized after, when I was putting a resume together, when I came in this industry, career industry, I was putting a resume together for myself, and I counted it. And I was like, oh my God, I got promoted 9 times from entry level to the leadership role within 9 years. And out of that, 2 years were mat leave. For those of you in Canada, we get 1 year, now up to 18 months maternity leave. We're so blessed, right? And I went twice. So I started to realize, how did I do it? And I didn't even know. So here's what I did. I think that worked for me, and that worked for my direct reports as well. It was all about first understanding the career path within your world. So a lot of companies, I don't know if you know, but the top companies, they already have a built-in career path designed for you. So let's say if I wanted to be leader someday, managing the team, I had to climb up and do something to get there. So you can't just go from this role to this role without doing all those things to understand what the leadership team does. So we're lucky that we had a framework career development path assigned to us, and you wanted to go onto this, those channels. So for me, I followed that, sat down with the manager, and I told them, listen, I want to be there someday, but I don't know how. What do you suggest? And we worked with a career development path, and I was lucky to have a great manager support system. And then the next thing for me was to build a personal brand. And I know there's a quiet quitting going on right now. We're going to talk about that, Tiffany. Okay. So
sure.
is great, not going above and beyond after hours, but I'll tell you what, it might not work with everybody. With all industry, we're going to go through and talk about that. So what happened obviously is I'm influencing the influencer, right? And a lot of time what happens is your boss might tell you something, but you might have a boss that, you know, they go behind your back and telling about you to their boss, and those might not be a strength they were talking about. So you got to understand your boss's expectations. And the next thing I did was understand the boss's expectations. How do I make them look good? And then how do I make their boss's boss look good as well, right? And I also had a skip level meeting with their boss's boss to understand, not to vent about my boss, but actually to understand their expectations. So anytime I sat down with their bosses, you know what? The comments were, oh, I've heard great things about you. And that was like, oh my God, thank God, right? Because managers talk. Tiffany, can you tell me, like, did you talk with your colleagues in the different department? We did as a manager.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I love what you were just sharing, Sweta, because I agree 100%. It's what I was referring to a little bit about those important decision makers. You know, I think as an employee, we put a lot of emphasis on our own boss, and of course they're important. They're going to play a pretty big role in the progression and the support that you get towards that progression. But please do not underestimate the importance of these other levels, not just vertically, but laterally as well. Everyone is creating a perception of you. And one of the things that really helped me in my own career track and that I coach on to this day is taking a proactive stance of implicating those relationships. Don't just count on other people to speak on your behalf. You are your own person. You can make it happen, just like you did on your end, Sweta. Really being able to have those conversations, learn what their expectations are. Is it different than what you think in your mind right now? What might be missing for you to get to those next steps? And I know sometimes getting that feedback can seem a little bit scary or overwhelming because you might be a little bit nervous of what you hear. But I'm always a big advocate of, well, you should probably find out that feedback because they still think it and you're not actioning it because you don't even know it exists. So that's just only going to backfire and keep you stuck longer, right? We don't want that.
Absolutely. Great point. So what are your thoughts? There's a trend going on, quiet quitting. In fact, I was even invited by a couple of media houses to talk about it. Extremely blessed. City News actually interviewed me recently because they saw the TikTok video, right? You know what? There's a pros and cons when it comes to quiet quitting. I have my thought. I've been venting about it. What are your thoughts on it from the manager's perspective and from the employee perspective? Can I hear that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from the employee perspective, I'll start with that one. I'm in a way, I'm happy that it's has a name now. It's kind of being spoken about more publicly. I don't necessarily agree with the term quiet quitting simply because I find it puts a lot of onus on the employees themselves. And it's not really quitting anyways. It's more of a stance of I need to protect my well-being. I'm not going to sacrifice my personal life, my health for a job. I want to be able to perform, but not necessarily give it my all when I'm not getting in return what I'd hoped to receive. Maybe that is progression, salary raises, those types of things. That said, and what I also coach on is that there's a lot that employees can do to better position themselves for the work that they're doing. And it's not about necessarily going above and beyond, but putting your energy on the right things that will make the difference so that you're not spreading yourself so thin. But then on the flip side, obviously the manager and even the employer plays a role in this as well. You know, I was one of those managers where I was very open with my team. They felt very safe and comfortable with me. And I fostered that type of feedback culture because you need to know where your team is at. And they shouldn't have to get to a point where they are quiet quitting because they just don't necessarily feel like there's a what's in it for them to do things differently from that, or where they're a little bit checked out. So there's certainly a role from a manager standpoint in being in tune with their team's motivation, what drives them, where those disconnects are, and help to correct course to make a better situation out of a pretty bad situation. And from an employer standpoint, there's obviously a bit of a bigger implication around employee well-being and the growth paths that might be made available so that it doesn't end up in a situation of needing to quiet quit just to get by.
That's very you know what? That's a very good point. And I have two takes on quiet quitting. Before I start telling you everyone should quiet quit, it all depends on where your motivation is, where you are in your career. So if you're a fresher trying to build your reputations and personal branding, probably the quiet quitting is something that you want to go above and beyond, but understanding how do you go above and beyond is probably the first step to identify it, meeting your boss's expectations, but what kind of expectation matters as well, right? Like setting up a boundaries. But then I've gone above and beyond, and today I'm here because I went above and beyond, and I did have to compromise so many things, my family times. I missed so many birthdays and everything, which I don't regret it. Would I go back and do it again? Absolutely not. I would not probably work on my BlackBerry or laptop after hours unless I have to, but that does come with the privilege as well, right? So quiet quitting might not apply to everybody, but again, what happens is it's just doing a job. It's not doing bare minimum. It's not slacking off. And I think we're portrayed as you got to go above and beyond, which is like working after hours, working like crazy, not getting paid. These are something that people are saying, no, enough is enough. Do not exploit my labor. Get me pay me for stuff that it matters to me, right? All those perks doesn't matter to me. That doesn't make sense to me, right? So people are speaking up. And then I think you're right. The term itself, quiet quitting, has a bad name, but I would like to spin it off and give positive, positive things towards it, because now people are speaking up, and then people are saying, you know what, pay me for things that matters to me, and I'm not going to compromise my mental health to please you, right? That's a great point. So I have a screen share. I have people right now on audio live, and you can see it right here. There are so many people listening. Stay in there. We're going to take your question as well. If you want to see yourself, you can go to YouTube as well, and then, see yourself. And then I'll bring you up on the stage soon as well. So I'm going to go back to focus now. I'm going to make sure that I give you the fame as well, whoever's listening to our audio events. This is gonna be fantastic.
And Sweta, just a quick thing. I just saw a comment in the chat that they were saying the audio is breaking a little bit.
Is it?
I'm not sure why. What we can do, I could try muting myself when I'm not talking and vice versa, if that helps.
Okay, so
I'll
is
give it a
it
shot.
audio is break? Can you confirm if the audio is breaking when I'm speaking or when Tiffany is speaking? Can you let us know so we can go and then do the mute button? Let me know. Where are you hearing? So Matt saying audio sounds great to me.
Okay.
All right. Well,
maybe it's just a connection on their end, possibly.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Anyway, so Tiffany, I have a question for you. When you are promoting people, direct reports, as a manager, what are the things that you looked for to promote them? What did you do? Give me a couple of tips that might work for people listening to you right now.
Yeah. Okay. A few that come top of mind is definitely ownership. I think for any manager who's looking to progress their team members, they need to know that that employee is set to spread their wings and not be over reliant on a manager to make key decisions to drive the business forward. And these are things that you could already start demonstrating in your current role to show that readiness level. And you mentioned such a good point earlier about understanding what that career path looks like and also what those expectations are. So from an employee standpoint, if you're at a certain level right now and you have a pretty good understanding from talking with your boss, maybe talking with others, what it takes to get to that next step, and you're focusing on some of those things with your boss's support and showing your level of ownership in leveling up on those areas, that's definitely going to be a huge brownie points to help you towards that next step. Another big thing from a manager standpoint towards their employee is actually talking about it. I often say your manager doesn't know what they don't know. So if you are not sharing enough actively of what you want and why you want it and why this is a path that's of interest to you, there's going to be a bit of a gap there. Your manager might not be able to align on the things that are going to help you get to that next step because they're not actually quite as sure what you want in that regard. So the communication piece is really key from the manager towards their employee to help prompt those types of conversations. I would say another thing is really having the type of commitment and follow through on the work and a little bit more of a big picture thinking. Something that's really going to help someone go from a more junior level to slightly more senior and more senior and more senior is really being able to show that you could think a little bit more big picture. You're not just in your own lane anymore. You're able to factor in other teams, lateral teams, maybe internal partners, external partners. There's a bigger level of complexity that you're able to handle with quite a lot of confidence, right? Because they're letting you go. They want to let you, whether it's on their team or a new team, they want you to get to that next step and thrive in it. They don't want you to be set up for failure. So my big moral of the story here is, although the manager is going to pick up on these cues, you as the employee have all the opportunities at your disposal to showcase that, to put yourself in a position where you can already start demonstrating these things and have the needed conversations with your boss to make sure you're on the right track to get you to where you want to go faster.
Awesome. Thank you. So I walked away with the key takeaway, which is building the relationship, developing the others, ideas, collaborating together. And I think more we look at it, how we talk about how the hiring managers are looking at soft skills. In my personal opinion, what happens is when we're interviewing as a hiring manager, it's really hard to detect those soft skills unless we start to work with them. This is when it showcases what kind of soft skills you're lacking, how I can support you as a manager, right? And a lot of people, they might think these questions are cliche. This is not fair, right? So I am one of those managers who would love to ask questions about what's your long-term goal? Where do you want to be in 3 years to 5 years from now, right? For me as a manager, I'm documenting it, and then I'm asking you, and if you tell me something that you really want to go there in leadership role, then I have you on my mind, and I'm like, okay, well, you need this to get here. Let me plan it accordingly, right? And I come from the part of the world where the career development planning was one of the key requirements for the management, coaching skills and everything. So we had every 3 months, I had a direct reports were more than 10 to 20 at the time. So I'm sitting down and drafting those career development planning documents and then holding them accountable with the SMART goals. Next term, it's okay, we are here. What are you doing about it? I gave you directions. Did you go talk to that person? I'm helping them network. I'm helping them build a brand. So a couple of examples that I have done as a manager to manage my team who are really hungry for that next promotions, right? And you're so right. The ball is in your court. I'm there, but I cannot read your mind. Don't expect your manager to know everything about you. I can only ask you, how can I support you? And this is what I'm going to do for you, but are you going to go and execute it? I cannot hold your hand and walk you through, but I'm going to talk about you behind your back. This is where the relationship with your boss really matters, because next intake meeting that's happening, I'll be the first one to know what department's going to be hiring from the resources planning team. They're going to be asking me, do you have any people in your team you think that they're the right fit? And I should be a manager already knowing in my head, this person wants to go here, this person wants to go here. How am I going to sell you? Give me the reason to sell you by executing stuff on the stuff that I've actually talked to you about. So for example, one of the direct reports, he wanted to go on to the process improvement area, and there was no opportunity. And I told him, listen, there's no opportunity, but you can get there. Bring that as a long term. You can get there from here. And I helped him by actually talking to the director and analytics team. I said, this guy is really good and he's really good at it. He's actually my right hand. I'm delegating the work and everything for him. He wants to get there, but give him project, try him out, right? He did really good. And now he wanted to go there. And then I mold him for the leadership role. And now he's a senior manager. The other person, same thing. She said, I want to go on to the operations. I want to go here. Where do you see me as a fit? I'm like, honestly, I don't see you as a fit there, but I see you fit here. And the strategy I used it, which most people would not like it, would be, how do you network? So she was a smoker. And I'm going to tell you this, right? I'm not telling you to smoke to get promoted, but use the common element to build a network, right? Golfing and stuff. Why do you think people who hang out, golf together, smoke together, go for a coffee run together, happy hours, there is something, they have common, element to it. I noticed that, first of all, I noticed who are getting promoted. You got to make sure you know the people, how they're getting promoted. Sometimes it's not only hard worker, it's a relationship based. I'm sorry to say that. You got to learn how to play the corporate game. I've seen people like, him, her, like, but then I don't know what have they done, right? So we're assuming it. So I'm not telling you to go out there and start smoking, but then use something common to build a relationship. And I've done that. And this person, I said, I kid you not, right? Am I proud of it? Maybe not. But I told her, you smoke, chain smoker out there, that's her, that manager. She goes in the break around that time, go. I'll adjust the break for you. Go, and you know what? Just pop in and ask questions and put it on your ear. Like, you know what? I'm interested. Start to know, be nosy. She got the role later on. She worked hard for it. I prepped her. Now she's a manager, right? So again, as a manager, I can only guide you. You got to go out there and do the execution. So what are your thoughts on, like, now let's talk about corporate politics. Do you need to know how to play the game?
Yeah. I wish I could promise there wasn't anything such thing as internal politics. Obviously it's going to vary by organization, but similar to what you shared, I think it just ultimately comes down to relationships, managing expectations of those relationships, managing different hierarchies in terms of relationships. So that's kind of the core theme of it. But it goes to what I said earlier, that your work is only going to take you so far. And if you're banking on that to do all of the heavy lifting, you're probably going to end up being pretty disappointed, because it's the people that are making the decisions regarding your progression. And so you need to know, who are those people? Who are those stakeholders? Who are those influencers? And just like you had suggested for your team, and I did the same for mine, you need to be able to expose yourself. And it doesn't have to be something complicated. I'm not saying that you have to go in and say, hey, look at me, I'm Tiffany, I'm doing amazing things. It's about building genuine connection. It's how I established amazing relationships with my C-level employees from a very young stage of my career, because I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. They think something that often holds people back when it comes to building those relationships with senior leaders that can have a huge influence on where you go next is like, well, they must be so busy, or, they don't want to talk to me. They don't have time for that. What do I have to contribute? They're so much more experienced. When in reality, it gets pretty lonely at the top. And I can tell you, some of my best conversations in my corporate days were with my CEO, like really getting to know each other and helping him learn insights more at the front lines of my area of the business that he wasn't as exposed to. So when you get those kinds of doubts of what do I bring to the table, know that you bring a lot to the table. And if you can frame it in that way of learning from one another, it's going to break down a lot of that overwhelm to help you very much on the networking and a bit of the internal politics of making yourself known and heard.
Absolutely. You know what? I wanted to address the point in there. That's a great point, right? Influencing again, sitting down. Don't be intimidated by that title at all. I was never. Once I started seeing the trend, like people are moving up the ladder because they're networking, they're building the relationship, right?
Yeah.
I did not know at that point that by me knowing the name of the security guard down there when I'm entering, saying, hi, George, versus by me talking to the CEO, hi, like this person, right? To go out there, I got noticed, right? It's, you know what? And you're right. You're building the relationship by actually offering the solutions on it, to understand in their head what solutions I'm going to try. So one thing that it always worked for me, especially, is I identify my strength to hide my weakness, right? So my strength was identifying the process improvement. Anything there's a gap, any gap that I've noticed it, I made it a big, and I brought the solution on the table. So in my dictionary as a manager as well, don't bring me the problem, because anyone can do it. Yeah. Give me the problem, give me the solutions, and I'll go out there and fight the battle for you, because I have a solution now, right? And I did exactly the same thing for my bosses as well. And that's when the people started noticing me, saying, why does it only happen when you're closing, when you're And I was like, because I look for trouble. I know I can't beat you on other things, my colleagues, right? But I know there's something I can do, is I'm passionate about it. I want to do this. And I kid you not, people came to me later on, these managers, these bosses came to me later on saying that, I know you can solve this. Can you tell us more, right? And because I was passionate about it, go somewhere that you know what, not a lot of people have passion on it. People shy away from trouble. People shy away from things that they cannot fix it. This is where your opportunity comes in to find it and provide the solutions. Now, do you want to take that questions on it? Maybe Matt's asking.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. So there are some nuances here, right? Obviously, if you're going for a promotion for an existing position that's looking to be filled, you're probably going to have a good sense of what those expectations are because it's an existing role. So you could more easily ask the questions or even just see through your own observation or speaking with someone who's previously been in that role to really understand versus where you're at now, what are those missing skills, gaps, opportunity, visibility that you need to get there. If, let's say though, Matt, it's in a position where it's newly created, well, that's actually really exciting because although the expectations might not be as clear, you have a real chance to leave your stamp on this and show how you can develop that role. Maybe it's even still in the thought process of, okay, look, we need a role in this department. We're not quite sure what that looks like. But just from the initial insights that you have, and a bit to what Sweta was just saying of tapping into your strengths, or what I even like to extend to your differentiating qualities, how can you use that to actually position yourself of, hey, I would love to take that on. I am the person to lead that new role. I would love to build this out and what that can look like. And it's a little bit more partnership style. But I can tell you, if you are the one taking the reins on that and really positioning yourself at the front lines on helping to flush that out, well, guess who they're going to be giving that position to? The one who's pretty much created the roadmap for it. And I've done that, by the way, in my own career too, and I've helped my teams do that, and it really works. So I'd highly recommend those important nuances.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And coming to end of this, and before I open the Q&A, I have shared the screen from Audio Live as well. So if you want to come back and ask us questions, there's the audio events going on. Go onto my LinkedIn profile, go onto the activity and hop into the audio events, and then come up on stage and ask us questions. That's what you would look like. Just the picture is going to come up. It's recorded. It's going to sit on YouTube as well if you want to watch the replay later on. There are two things I've learned to get promoted in the world I came in is, first of all, it's not about your degrees and certification anymore. It's all about your work ethic, reputations, your integrity, personal branding you've built for years. It takes years. So when you're walking out from the room, what is your manager saying about you? What is the leadership team thinking about you? That matters anytime when you are getting promoted, especially with the organization where your manager has to recommend you and they have to write the recommendation to get promoted. If you don't have a good relationship, I definitely want you to think through it before getting promotions, because a lot of times people get shocked, but that's a leadership failure. I think you got to have a coaching session regularly, and your performance review should never be a shocker. You should already know where you're sitting at, and you should already know the measurable goals and clear expectations. Second thing is knowing how people are getting promoted. There's a good politics, there's a bad politics, right? I'd like you to make gossiping is bad, I think, but like knowing the information is the key here. Who do you go out there and get the information? That's your strategy. And I did that, right? You don't have to play the game by gossiping and bad mouthing somebody. Just get the information, know the key account holder, and then network in a positive way. Ditch the bad politics. Don't hang around with the people who are seen as someone who are never going to be promoted. We all know that, right? Hang around. Your tribe matters. You are who you are associating yourself with. Your reputations could be damaged. So make sure you have a right tribe to support you. Make sure you are connected well with the people who are going to put your name on room full of opportunities. And I like to say this, I don't think there's any family at work, especially your colleagues. I've always said it, I'll swear by it. When the next promotion comes in, no one's ever going to tell you later on, like, you deserve it. They always think, I deserve that more. So they are your competitors. Play the game strategically and you will win. You know what? Don't backstab it. Just clarify your goal and work with the influencer. What are your thoughts before we're taking Q&A, Tiffany?
Yeah, I want to add something too, you just made me think of as well, which is the importance of perception, especially when it comes to landing promotions faster. You really need to take the time to make sure the perception of you is actually the reality that others are thinking of you. This is where so many frustrations and gaps end up happening, where people don't get that promotion and they're like, I don't understand. I thought I was doing everything I needed to do. Why didn't it go my way? Why did so-and-so get it instead? And then you just get in that really negative headspace that doesn't serve you well at all. So please take away from this of having those conversations with the people that you're directly working with, your team, your boss, extended team members, different teams, just to get a pulse of if how you're putting yourself out there is how you want it to be received. You know, you might be thinking the work that you're doing is incredible. Meanwhile, others might think that you are just like all over the place. Like you are just doing one thing one day, one thing another, and that might be leaving a bad taste in their mouth in terms of the focus that you might need going into your next role. So again, it goes back to what I was saying in those feedback moments. Really embrace that. It's only going to be served as fuel to help you put your energy on what's going to make the biggest difference.
That's amazing. So I'm going to now copy it into the audio events. People are listening. Now I'm going to open the floor for audio events. Raise your hand. There's a raise button. You get to now come up on the stage and ask us questions. There's one person already raising hand. You can see yourself later on, watch and replay on YouTube as well. Ask us questions about the career strategy, job search, and anything that you want to ask about the career strategy. So I'm going to bring Virana. Let me know if I pronounce your name right. What questions do you have for us? Unmute yourself. Go for it. You need to give permission for the mic. And if you're not able to, then you might want to hop in back again. You're still muted. Anyone who wants to come up on the audio live and ask us questions, raise your hand. Virana, I don't think probably there's a permission needed on your end. You need the permission. Okay, so I'm going to bring you. How do you introduce yourself and then ask us question? You are muted, so you want to probably look into the bottom and then unmute yourself or go back on a mobile device. Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, hello?
Introduce yourself and what question do you have for us?
Hello,
Raise your hand.
I'm
Yeah.
Joseph Nkrumah from
Joseph,
Ghana.
Yes. Thanks for joining us. What question do you
Yes,
have for us?
All right, thank you very much. I thank you very much for a good presentation too. And my question is that, assuming I have a bad leader, how, and then you work, you do everything. How do you expect that there will be a promotion? Or maybe what must you expect when you are working under a bad leader?
Tiffany, do you want to take that and I'll add my piece?
It was cutting out a little bit for me. Sweta, do you mind just repeating the question?
So what I'm hearing was, if you do everything right, how do I know when I would be promoted? Was that your question, Joseph?
Yes, please. That's my question. And then assuming if you have a bad leader too, how will you know that the leader will help you to be promoted?
A great question. Did you get that, Tiffany?
If you have a bad manager, how will that help you to get promoted? Was that the last part?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So let's tackle the first part first. So in terms of the when, if you feel like you're doing everything you need to do, the when part is actually a pretty critical piece in the career path dialogues that you're having, because your perception of time might be very different than your boss's perception of time. You might say, okay, I think I'm ready for this right now. And it goes to what I was saying before about the perception. When, if let's say your boss is saying, no, it's going to happen soon, but for them soon is next year. Well, again, there might be that little bit of a clash. So you want to be as explicit as you can about what your hope and expectation would be and when you want to secure that, so that you're, again, working on the things that's closing the gaps to get there. Maybe you're already doing all of the things and it's going to be an imminent promotion, but you don't want to leave those gaps to happen just by not being explicit enough about what your ideal timeline is. The other thing could be even just inquiring about what an appropriate timeline would be for that next move. This might be implicated due to internal HR policies or recommended timeframes of staying in a certain role for a certain period of time before moving someone. So you also want to ask those types of questions to make sure that you're not going in naive, but at least equipped with the right type of insights and data to support you on the timeline. To the other question around having a bad boss or a more difficult boss that you feel might not be supporting you as much, that's a bit of a different topic to some degree about how to repair that relationship and make sure that you are having their support to support you. The one key advice I will share on this, though, Joseph, is that you need to position things in a way that the what's in it for them is also very clear. If they're a little bit more difficult with you, but they know that by supporting you in XYZ way, that will also favor your progression and also help them look good, help them be presented well, help them show that they're building a solid team, you're probably going to get a lot more receptivity in supporting you towards those next steps than having a bit more of a hostile working relationship.
That's awesome. Thank you. So, I wanted to add a couple of things based on my lived experience. Okay. Now, so what I want you to think of it, just the way that Tiffany said, is know how people are getting promoted. I always go back to the culture of your department, organizations. What kind of people are getting promoted? Is it based on relationship building and the stats? Are there measurable goals and stats that you're not meeting or you're exceeding? Are those people who are being promoted, is that all based on the stat itself? I come from the world where the stats were the key for me to promote people before I go and put my reputation online, before I go and then say, like, this is the person for you, right? They've been top performer in my team. So that's why you got to understand how you're being measured and how people are getting promoted. And are you doing those things, right? Sometimes what we think is, you know what, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to give them stats, and it's their responsibility to put my name in the room full of opportunities. No, if you don't tell your boss where you want to go, how you need the support, what are the areas that you want to develop yourself? There's in-house courses. There's like so many courses that your leader can actually put your name for it. And ask for support. And if you feel like you're not supported, you go back to the bad bosses now, right? That's the thing. And here's the bad bosses, okay? For someone, I might have been the bad bosses, okay? That they might have resigned on me, that I am not aware of it. But then, like, what happens is I want you to reflect on yourself and see, why do you think that person is a bad boss? Are you not meeting the expectations, or the person is not the right leader for you? Because as a leader, our job is not to please you. Our job is to manage the team and support you and coach you and promote to the other role that you always wanted to. But you might be in a wrong role sometimes, and you are not probably the right fit, where your full potential is not coming out the right way, or the leaders are not coached. Normally what happens is the new leaders, when they're a top seller, they're just like, molded, and they're like, okay, you're a good fit. Top sellers might not be a top leader, right? So this is the organization failure. So is it that leader, they need more coaching? You got to bring it up. What works for you? How would you like to manage? In your dictionary, what's a bad boss? Because that person could be a great boss for somebody else, right? Is it you? Is it them? Understand it. Try to work on it. Be receptive to the feedback and show them you want to improve. Show them that, you know what, you want to do this for them. We're in this together. And that's my takeaway. Before you hold other people accountable, your boss accountable, I want every one of you thinking about it. Your boss is a human as well. If you don't speak up, if you don't give them the concern, there is no way they would know that they need to work on it, right? Yeah. You got to bring it up. Great question. Anything else you want to talk about, Joseph, before I invite someone else on the stage? Anyone who wants to come up on the stage, ask questions. I'm going to open this for 5 more minutes, and I'm going to wrap up. Raise your hand and ask us questions. Anything that you have, follow-up questions, Joseph? Tiffany, can you hear me, Tiffany?
I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know. So maybe he's all right. Any questions you have, bring it up. Raise your hand. I'll bring you up on the stage. This has been streamed live on YouTube as well and LinkedIn Live as well. You can catch the replay later on for those of you who want to go, and you have to go because some people messaged me saying that, is it available for replay? Yes, it does. What else do you want to add, Tiffany, before the question comes in onto the floor? What else do you have that we might have missed it? I might have missed asking questions that you want to bring it up.
Yeah, I think really understanding what makes your boss tick and what makes them thrive is really important as their employee to help you in your own progression, right? Every boss is going to have their own management style. And I love helping my clients overcome very difficult relationships with their boss to totally turn it around. Sometimes it might feel like there's no coming back from this, but there often is. But you also need to know the type of way you want to be managed. And if I can share one really important thing, at any stage of your career, please have the conversation with your boss as to what does motivate you, like what gets you energized. Because the last thing you want is for them to just assume things of you and possibly lead you down a certain path that you're like, that actually isn't really what I want, or that's not something that's exciting me, or that's something that's making me a little bit frustrated. You're letting them take control of your career when you have an active say in what you want. So having those open lines of communication, nothing complicated, just sharing what you want for yourself, why you want it, what drives you. And if there's disconnects right now that's keeping you from achieving that next step, that's where you really want to hone in on with them so they can best support you in return.
Awesome. That's a great one. So now, for those of you who joined us, thank you so much for joining us. And where people can follow up with you if they want to work with you, or where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for everyone. I love the global group here today, Sweta. Yeah. And I'm so impressed with your tech background with the YouTube and the live and the audio live. So we're all set up. But yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. I would love to chat more if you joined today and hear what your takeaways were. We could always talk about how I can support you further if ever you're interested in fast tracking your success. If you're active on Instagram and TikTok, follow me over there as well. My handle is @tiffany.uman. And of course, if you want to learn more about me, what I do, and my programs and services, check out my website, www.tiffanyuman.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. And for those of you who want to reach out and talk to me about the career strategies, feel free to book an appointment with me right here. It's right here, there, appointmentteachingyou.com. We can hop in on 30 minutes free discovery call and see if we're the right fit, where you're struggling. Let me assess that. And if you're not looking for investment, but you just want to download some free resources, lots of stuff there. Download it right there. It's all yours. Also, I have a free resources right there where you can read everything about the job search as well, targeted to newcomers, immigrants in Canada, laid off people. There's so many informations. And Teach You and Do channel. I'm also on TikTok as well. So you can follow me on TikTok if you want to see funny videos that it would not normally do well on LinkedIn. So we go crazy on TikTok, and I'm loving it. But LinkedIn Live, I come here every Friday at 11 a.m., sometime with the guests, sometime by myself. Just hop in on my audio events in LinkedIn Live and ask me questions. So thank you so much, Tiffany, that we went through this career strategies, and I would love for you all to give us a feedback how we could have done better. Give us the topic as well later on. So if you want to see Tiffany back, tell me, send me a message. What are the topics? And we can go through it and then deal with this. Thank you so much for watching, Tiffany. Any last word before we go?
Oh, just a big thank you. Thanks for hosting me today. Thank you to everybody who joined in. I hope you got a lot of tips and strategies coming out of today. And, take control of your career success. It's yours for the taking. Don't be in that passive driver's seat. You really want to be able to spearhead the path that you are so deserving of and can create for yourself. So I hope you all feel really empowered to do that following today's live together.
Perfect. And last word that I want to leave with is, if the promotions are not happening in your company, if you're working with a toxic boss, toxic environment, the bad politics, you don't want to be part of it, there's always an option for you with the exit strategy. Both of us can help you. I want you to go where you are celebrated. We got one life to live. You don't have to please anybody. Plan it, career strategy. Don't just quit it, but do it the right way. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
And I'm doing audio live and wrapping up as soon as